Okay, so this is the first video for the Unit 3 Catholic paper, and our first topic is Advent. For Advent, you could be asked to describe how Catholics celebrate Advent. You could be asked about the importance of it, and you could be asked it as an evaluation question as well. So, when it comes to how Catholics celebrate Advent, there are things that you can draw upon that non-Catholics do, but at the same time there are specific practices of Catholics. Alright, so let's get started. Some of the specific things that Catholics do to celebrate Advent. The first thing is that in Mass they light the Advent wreath. Okay, so the Advent wreath is, you've got the wreath is made up of evergreen flowers, and on top of that you have 3 purple candles and a pink candle. Okay, now the 3 purple candles are there to remind Catholics of the importance of preparation during Advent, okay? And purple being the colour of penance. I'll get onto that in a moment, which means sort of saying sorry. I think you could probably guess about what one of the things that they do is called during Advent. The pink candle, all right, represents how Catholics should remain remain strong, really. It just reminds Catholics of the joy of living a good life as followers of Jesus, that when Jesus arrives, that it will be sort of a time of celebration. So it's like a reminder of that. Then that's sort of the Advent wreath. Okay, you can talk about the fact that the wreath itself is that it's evergreen and that it's circle. Okay, and so the ideas of that is just to remind us that God's love never ends, and that evergreen is the colour of hope and life. So that's the one part of it. You can notice, if I link it again with purple, that during Mass the priest will wear purple vestments as a reminder that this is a time of preparation, a time of penance. Also, the Gloria is not sung during Mass because this is a time of preparation, not celebration. In Mass as well, some of the readings focus on John the Baptist. Okay, and the reason that they do that is that John the Baptist was called his task, that he was the messenger to prepare the way for the Messiah, and it helps Catholics to understand that Jesus the Messiah is to be born at Christmas time. The other sort of things you can talk about is that Catholics, part of their time of preparation, what they will do is that they will go to reconciliation, all right, to really try and repair their relationship with God. Also during this time they want to make sure that this message gets out to others, so some of the practices could be through sending Christmas cards that show the nativity scene, the true meaning of Christmas. It could be carol singing, okay, once again spreading the true meaning of Christmas, a form of evangelization. Then you can talk about some things like Advent calendars, all right, the countdown to the arrival of Jesus' birth. If you are going to do that, make sure that you keep it religious, keep it Catholic, and you don't just talk about people opening up their My Little Pony calendars and eating chocolate, etc. All right. Now those are lots of the sort of different practices. You could talk about the Jesse tree as well. About how some Catholics have a Jesse tree that sort of links Jesus with the Old Testament. It gives us the idea that Jesus, the Messiah, Jesus is the Messiah, that he is coming. So you can talk about that too. So those are sort of the practices, if you want, about how they celebrate Advent. Not the only ones, okay? There are lots of different ones, all right, but those are obviously some of the key ones. What I will mention as well is that, but this time is the time they really focus on showing love to thy neighbour. So it could be through supporting CAFOD, all right? Now, they could do this by buying their Christmas cards, and also they could be donating money, just quite simply to buying sort of world gifts, that type of idea, all right? Now, why is Advent important? Okay, now there's lots of reasons why Advent is important. All right, and the first one is that it's a time of preparation for Jesus' arrival. Okay, so obviously Jesus, the Savior of the world, is coming. So it's important to make sure that we are ready for this, okay? So the type of things that we do for this is, again, so it's about going to reconciliation, attending Mass. That's the impact it has in their lives. The second thing is that it's a time to rekindle, to restore our relationship with God in preparation for the birth of Jesus. And this is important because, obviously, this is a very important time during the year, that it is, so therefore it's vital that our relationship with God is strong. So the type of things that they do with this is that they carry out his work, you're talking about all the practices from before, and that they go to reconciliation. The next one is that it's a time that we can focus on showing love to others. And the reason for this is that at this important time of year where God has shown us so much love by sending his son, that we too should prioritize showing love to others. All right, so the type of thing that we can do for this is you can talk about CAFOD there, all right, about supporting those in need. Another one is that it's important time. It's a time when we can share the true meaning of Advent and Christmas. What's called so that we can evangelize. Okay, why this is important is because essentially Jesus is the reason for the season. Okay, we have got to make sure as Catholics that we ensure that true meaning of Christmas isn't lost. We have a responsibility to get that message to the masses, and the way in which we do this is through sending Christmas cards that show the nativity scene, by through caroling, okay, not singing Jingle Bells and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We're focusing on maybe Away in the Manger, Hark the Herald Angels Sings, etc., etc. The other one is that Advent is a time when we are reminded of the joys of believing in and following God. So throughout what's called Advent, you can talk about the fact that we are reminded that we are preparing ourselves to receive Jesus into our lives once again, and that we are preparing ourselves for the fact, or we're reminding ourselves of the fact that we are saved because of Jesus coming to earth. And sort of the impact you can talk about here, or the Catholic practices that you can talk about here, are still with the wreath, the pink candle, the evergreen wreath, or in the circle, the reminder of God's love, the reward that goes through it. You can talk about John the Baptist, all right, the fact that we read about him being the messenger, Jesus being the Messiah. It's a reminder that Jesus is there to save us. Now, if this comes up as an evaluation question, all right, then you got to talk about maybe why it isn't as important, okay? So I think the best point of comparison here is that the fact that it's Christmas is what is important and not Advent, and this is because this is when Jesus is born, all right? So therefore, that is why at Christmas time you'll see more people going to church. That's why even the Advent practices are all to do with preparing for Christmas, okay? So you can talk about that. The second thing is that many people do not understand the significance of Advent, all right? And this is because people don't necessarily attend Mass during this time, or that they don't see maybe the benefits of doing so. So you could draw a point about that. The final one is that some of the things that Catholics do during Advent should be done at any other point, all right? So this is because most of the practices the Catholics do during Advent are just what makes a person a good Catholic. So therefore, sort of like things like showing love to others, evangelization, that these are part of our mission as being Catholics anyway. They're not just things that we should be doing during Advent. So if I was doing this, I would focus on those 2 points really, that Christmas is what is important, and the fact that the practices that we do during Advent, they're the things that we should be doing throughout the year, okay? It's what makes a good Catholic. So that concludes the video on Advent.